Hello, everyone. Charles Watts here. Welcome back to Inside Arsenal. It is Monday. Unfortunately, it is the international break, the second one of the season. 2 weeks of sitting here like that, hoping no bad injury news. The last one was a bit of a disaster, wasn't it? Hopefully, this one goes a little bit better. I was sitting at London Colney last week, and Mikel was asked about it. What are you going to do during the international break? And he just said, pray. I think that's what we're all basically going to do. So, not much to talk about over the next couple of weeks, but I'm sure we'll find stuff. It's Arsenal at the end of the day. There's always talking points to go on. We will discuss Kai Havertz in today's show. He has pulled out of Germany's squad for the two upcoming international fixtures. So we've got injury news before the international break even gets underway. So we'll talk about that. We've got some questions and comments from you guys as well. Obviously, we'll do a bit of a loan roundup. Nuno Tavares having an absolute worldy time in Italy so far this season with Lazio. We'll talk about that. Talk a little bit about Conor McGregor and Bukayo Saka as well, because that is in the news right now. So we'll talk about that. A bit of a crossover when it comes to sports as well. But let's start with Kai Havertz, shall we? The news came out yesterday. Germany putting out the news that Kai Havertz has pulled out of the England squad, the Germany squad for the international break due to, and it described as knee issues, knee injuries, I think it said, which obviously was very, very unexpected. We all sat there and watched Kai Havertz play very, very well during Saturday's game. Of course, made a huge impact, scored the equaliser against Southampton as Arsenal came back to win 3-1. In that game. Didn't appear like there was anything wrong. And then bang, 24 hours later, we suddenly get hit by this news that he's pulled out because of knee issues. So understandably, there was a lot of concern yesterday. I had so many questions across this platform, my other social media as well. What's going on with Kai Havertz? What is going on? So my understanding of the situation, first of all, is that it's nothing to be overly concerned about. Which is obviously good news. That's the messages I'm getting, having spoken to a few people at Arsenal about what's going on at the moment. It's nothing overly worrying. He did finish the game at the weekend. He was fine to finish the game at the weekend. He's going to be assessed over the next few days. But certainly the impression that I'm getting is that this isn't anything to be overly concerned about. And right now, I would expect Kai Havertz to be fit for the game at Bournemouth after the international break. Obviously, there's a lot of time to go between then and now, and he is being assessed by the medical staff. But I think this is more of a sort of sensible decision for a player who's played an awful lot of minutes at his club and is obviously feeling a few things going into the international break. So talks between everyone, the outcome was, let's watch him at Arsenal, let's assess him at Arsenal, let's not take any risks and make sure he's okay. So that's my impression of the Havertz situation right now, which hopefully, fingers crossed, is how it all pans out come the Bournemouth game, and he'll be fine to feature in that because he's so important to this Arsenal team. I spoke about him in yesterday's show, just what a leader Kai Havertz has become, and that was my overriding impression from watching Havertz in that game at the weekend against Southampton, especially his goal and the way he took it and the way he just sort of took on that responsibility in that moment. He was just like, right, we've conceded, we're losing it. I'm dragging my team back into this. And that was just all over that goal. The run, the determination, the drive to get up there and the finish. It was a real moment of leadership on the pitch from Kai Havertz. And that's what he is at Arsenal now. He's so important. I can't imagine this Arsenal team without Kai Havertz in it, which is a remarkable thing to say when you go back 12 months and think where Kai Havertz was when he first arrived at this football club. To now say he basically up there with Saka, Saliba as like the first names on the team sheet, because Arsenal without Kai Havertz is just a completely different beast right now. He's that important. He's scoring that many goals. He's contributing in so many other ways as well. And I love that performance from him. I love that goal from him at the weekend against Southampton. So it would be awful if he was to be injured and suddenly to miss any sort of games, especially with Martin Odegaard still on the treatment table, of course. So nothing overly to be concerned about. That's the message that I'm getting. And hopefully that is the correct message. But that is certainly the message I'm getting at the moment is, look, it's not too serious. He played the whole game at the weekend. He was fine to play the whole game at the weekend. We're just assessing him over the next few days to make sure that whatever it is that he's feeling is nothing too serious. And there was no point in him going over to Germany and risking anything. And the German national team understood that as well. So, yeah, not too bad a news when it comes to Kai Havertz. And hopefully in the long run, this will be a really welcome rest for him over the next couple of weeks as well. Right, moving on to Mikel Arteta. I thought these quite interesting comments from Mikel after the game at the weekend. It has been a really difficult time for Arsenal, a really turbulent time for Arsenal, really, since the last international break. Going into that break, things looking pretty good. Then bang, you're hit by the Martin Odegaard news, and Calafiori gets injured. Other players injured, fullbacks. Ben White's struggling. Jurrien Timber struggling as well. Arsenal have had to deal with an awful lot of stuff. 2 games when they've gone down to 10 men as well. And they've come through it so well. You think about Spurs away, Man City away, everything that they've had to go through to come through that unbeaten, to be where they are at this point of the season, I think is really, really impressive. When Mikel talks about it, he says it's been a really tough period since the last international break in terms of fixtures, the amount of injuries we've had, the teams we've had to play. But the team shows an incredible capacity to adapt to various contexts. They are really willing. They really want this, and I'm really happy with where we are. This period requires something else, something that we haven't done in the past. For the amount of injuries and with the schedule we've had to play, we played certain moments with 10 men as well. It doesn't matter. There's no excuses. We adapted to it. We faced it and we went for it. And I love the character from the team. And I think that's what we can really take from this last period of games between the 2 international breaks. I don't think Arsenal have been anywhere near their best yet, performance-wise. And I think that's to come as the season goes on. But results-wise, I think we can take an awful lot from it. And the character and the fight that they've shown to get through some of that. I mean, that first week, Spurs away, Atalanta away, City away, to get through that week the way they did, I thought was really, really impressive. And now the last couple of games at home, they've responded in the league, got 6 points from 6 from games you would expect them to get 6 points from 6 for, but they were tested in both. And they had to dig themselves out of a hole in both. And they managed to do that despite not playing at their best. They're creating a hell of a lot of chances, having a hell of a lot of shots, which is promising, especially considering they're doing it and had to adapt to life without Martin Odegaard and playing a bit of a different way. They've had a really good win against PSG in the Champions League, which I thought was a really dominant performance against a top quality European side. So I think there's lots to take from this period that Arsenal have just come through. But there's certainly a lot to look forward to as well as we continue in the season, because I think there's a lot more to come from this Arsenal team. They're nowhere near their best performance-wise. We've not sat there and thought that's been an outstanding performance from Arsenal really yet this season, have we? I thought PSG were very, very good, but we're yet to see one of those games where you just think, wow, that was amazing. And there's definitely to come from this team. And so to be where they are, to be unbeaten, to have got through, navigated some really tricky fixtures, I think is fantastic. But they've got a big challenge to come once they get back from this international break, because they've got some really difficult games ahead. Liverpool, Chelsea as well, Newcastle away, Inter Milan away. So really difficult fixtures to come after this international break. So hopefully they can improve performance-wise. But I thought those were pretty spot-on comments from Mikel Arteta about the period that had just come through. And when you look at the league table, where things stand at the moment, Liverpool obviously top, Diego Jota scoring the goal against Crystal Palace to get that 1-0 win. Pretty edgy win for them. Could easily have dropped points in that game. Palace had their shooting boots on in the second half. Man City obviously level on points with Arsenal, level on goal difference with Arsenal as well. So they're ahead on goals scored. How on earth City managed to get through that Fulham game without dropping some points like that? Well, I do know. It's because Adama Traore can't finish. But if he could, then Fulham could easily have won that game. They played very, very well. So, and there's a 3-point gap between Arsenal and Chelsea in fourth. Chelsea drawing. It was a good day for Arsenal yesterday. I thought Chelsea dropping points at home to Nottingham Forest. Forest could have won that game. Chelsea could have won that game as well. It was an exciting one to watch. Villa dropping points at home to Manchester United, which is good. Obviously, it means Villa drop points in. It also probably means that it's just a good enough result to keep Eric Ten Hag in his job, which I think we can all agree is what we want for as long as possible. So I thought that was a good result for Arsenal as well. And of course, Tottenham doing what only Tottenham can do, throwing away a 2-goal lead and losing to Brighton 10 times now. Spurs have thrown away a 2-goal lead in the Premier League and lost a game. No team has ever done that 10 times. I think the second team who's done that the most times is 7. The Spurs have now done it 10 times. So yeah, that was a really good day, I thought, football-wise for Arsenal. And that's how the Premier League table looks as we head into the second international break. Arsenal very well poised there, just a point behind Liverpool. And level on points with Manchester City. Bit of a loan watch now, shall we? Some good moments for some Arsenal loanees over the weekend. Nuno Tavares now has 5 assists for Lazio this season, the leading assist maker in Serie A. Another one for him at the weekend. I think it was against Empoli. And Reece Nelson obviously got an assist, came off the bench, got an assist in the game against Manchester City as well. Nuno's flying at Lazio. He had a really brilliant start to life at Marseille as well, didn't he? Scored some goals, got some assists. He they really took to him early on, and then he struggled to maintain that, and his form dipped. He lost his place in the side. I think be interesting to see if he can maintain this sort of form at Lazio, because he had a really, really good start over there. He's always been a player. I've always said that he's got the attributes to be such a good player, Nuno Tavares. If you could you obviously have to work at him a lot defensively, speaking. But if you can just let him attack and go forward, he can create chaos because he's got that in him. He's got some really good attacking attributes. And obviously at the moment that's working for Lazio, and he's doing very well. So that's good. Good for him. As I said, Reece Nelson got the assist. Carl Hein played. Sambi Lokonga has come back. He came on against Sevilla, for Sevilla, in the weekend, which is good for him. He's been out injured with a hamstring injury, so good to see Sambi back as well. But yeah, Nuno and Reece leading the way when it comes to Arsenal loanees over the weekend. Really impressive start to life in Italy for Nuno Tavares. Right, I've had loads of questions about, not even questions, well, some of them have been questions, but a lot have been more just comments of why on earth was Conor McGregor allowed on the Arsenal pitch after the game against PSG? And there's been lots of headlines about it. Headlines over the weekend about Arsenal changing protocols to ensure something like this doesn't happen again. I'm not sure it's quite as sort of firm as that, as Arsenal are immediately changing protocols, but just the explanation on this incident, because I've had so many comments on how this was allowed to happen, what went on. Because we know what Conor McGregor does, and he can seize opportunities to get himself front and center when it comes to the spotlight, and he certainly did that after the PSG game. He wasn't there as an invited guest by anyone. My understanding is he managed to bag himself some tickets just a couple of hours before the game. He was scrambling around trying to get some tickets because he was in town and he wanted to go to it. He eventually got that through whatever sort of celebrity circles that you can manage to get tickets through, high-end concierge type stuff, and he got tickets to the game. So he watched the game, and then as they sort of come down from where they're watching the game in the boxes and stuff, it's just outside where the players come from the tunnel and they go into the players' room and stuff like that. And I think he sort of bumped into some Arsenal players as he was leaving, and they just ended up going pitch side. He wasn't taken pitch side by Arsenal or anything like that. It wasn't a pre-authorized thing. Obviously, it just doesn't look great. You got someone like him kicking and punching, even play fighting. Yes, it may have been, but it still doesn't look great that he's seen doing it on the pitch. He managed to basically take his own booze down there as well. His whatever it is that he's got in his business, and he plugged that on the pitch with photos and everything. It was obviously not a great look, and had a kickabout and all that sort of stuff on the pitch. And so, yeah, from my understanding, it's something that Arsenal didn't have a say in happening, and it only lasted for a few minutes until it was like, right, that's good, that can't continue anymore, and he obviously got taken off the pitch and disappeared back down the tunnel and left the stadium. But I don't think you'll be seeing lots of stories, I'm sure, about changing protocols and everything like that. I'm not sure it's quite as sort of serious as that, but it was kind of, I'm trying to think of the best way to describe it. It was almost a perfect storm of how this actually managed to happen. And yeah, it didn't look great. There's no doubt about it. I can understand a lot of people have been messaging me saying, why on earth did we let this happen? And it didn't look great 100%, but I don't think it'll be happening again. Put it that way. I think it was just one of the perfect storm of people walking into people at the exact right moment and ended up down on the pitch. And yeah, I don't think it's going to be happening again. Put it that way. But it wasn't a pre-authorized thing by Arsenal. They didn't invite him. He wasn't a guest of the club. They didn't take him pitch side. He just happened to sort of stumble across some players at the exact time he was coming back down from his seat, and ended up pitch side with them and just doing what he did while he was there. Okay, a few questions and comments before we wrap this one up for today. Jay Mountain says, I'm really struggling with the criticism of rotating the team against Southampton. If we can't rotate at home against them, against whom can we play Jesus, Sterling? If we played a full first team, the narrative would have been, why doesn't Arteta trust his bench? Why didn't he rotate? You're right, 100%. And as I was saying in yesterday's show, if you're not going to play Jesus at home to Southampton, then when are you going to play him, basically? So I could understand. All I thought was maybe there was a little bit too much rotation in one game when you had to, obviously you were moving party out position to cover for the lack of right back, so you were changing the midfield, you were changing the attack, you were bringing two players into the attack rather than just one. Maybe it felt like there was just a little bit too much rotation on the day for me, but I'm certainly not going to criticise Arteta for doing it. I think he absolutely needs to do it. Like you exactly point out, these players need minutes. Arsenal are going to need Gabriel Jesus this season. It's absolutely so important that he finds some form and finds some confidence. And he's not going to do that unless he gets minutes. So you do need to find those minutes for him. You need to get that game time for him 100%. So I'm not going to sit there and criticize Arteta for doing it. It's just a shame, basically, the players who did come in, especially Jesus, didn't sort of take that opportunity that he was given, because that would have been ideal, obviously, and no one would have been talking about rotation and things like that if Jesus had popped up himself with a couple of goals. And for all the criticism he's getting at the moment, and I understand he's going to get criticism, of course he is. He plays for Arsenal and he's not performing that well when he's on the pitch at the moment. But he is very, very important to this squad and this team, and Arsenal need him to find some form and find some confidence. So they've got to find a way of doing that, and the only way that happens is if he's on the pitch and if he can score. And I keep using Martinelli as a perfect example of that, because it was only 3 weeks ago that almost every comment I had on videos or on social media was someone saying, why is Martinelli playing? He's awful. He's not getting his head up. His decision-making is terrible. He shouldn't be playing at all. Trossard has to start. And now look at what's going on. Martinelli's got 4 goals and assists in his last 3 Premier League games, back-to-back goals in the Premier League at the Emirates, and he's found himself some form again. It can happen very, very quickly, and that's what we need to happen for Jesus, 100%. So yeah, good comment there from Jay Mountain. Avarta8 says, hi, Charles. Great content as always. Thank you very much. Do you think the second goal from Saka to Martinelli could have been called offside due to Mourinho in attempting to play the ball? We are lucky that he did not touch the ball. I think we would have been lucky as a referee have called offsides for similar situations in the past. In my opinion, we are lucky to get away with it. On the other hand, if the VAR referees had called an onside, it would have been a real fiasco. On the whole, I think the decision is fair because he didn't touch the ball and he helped the game by keeping excitement up, as the goal was so hard to come by. We good to hear your opinion. Yeah, it was an interesting one. When I saw the replays and obviously was watching the VAR happening at the time, I was thinking, I saw Mourinho in that position and I was like, oh my God, are they going to get him involved in it? It didn't feel like they did. Obviously, all the time they took was about judging whether Martinelli was actually offside or not. They didn't really seem to consider Mourinho that much. But after the game, became clear that they did consider Mourinho's position, but they felt he wasn't really influencing the game. And I think that's right. When you look at he doesn't touch the ball. He doesn't, the goalkeeper isn't put off by Mourinho being there. He's not blocking the goalkeeper's view or anything like that. So I don't think you could have called it offside. It was a slight little fear of mine when I saw the replay initially, but I just don't think you can call it. It's not like a shot that's come from the edge of the area and a player standing in an offside position in front of the goalkeeper. It's a little bit different to that. And I just don't think you can deem him as interfering with play or blocking the goalkeeper or anything like that. So I think it was the right decision, 100%. But yeah, obviously, if he'd have touched the ball or if the goalkeeper had come out and sort of got blocked by Mourinho in that position, then I think it would have probably been a different story. But because it played out the way it did, I think it would have been very, very harsh had that goal been ruled out for offside. Dangerfield Chris says, I love these matches afterwards, obviously, because these are the games that the players and the manager learn from. I was a comedian for 10 years. When you have a great gig, you don't improve in any way. When you have a tricky, challenging gig, you learn new strategies, you improve your ability to remain confident and not let the emotional side of things negatively affect your performance. A few more matches like this at this end of the season will be good for Arsenal. Sometimes hard to watch, but the long run, this is the team maturing. Good point, Dangerfield Chris. Absolutely. Love the comparison there of your time as a comedian as well. And I think these last 2 games, Leicester and Southampton, would have taught Arsenal an awful lot. And I think it certainly would have given confidence as well going forward that they know when they're in these tricky situations that they can get themselves out of it. They can respond very, very well. Against Leicester, obviously, they kept going. They didn't let their heads drop. They kept plugging away and they got their rewards. Against Southampton, they seemed to be inspired by going a goal behind and drag themselves off the floor very, very quickly to turn things around. It's the sort of thing we've seen from Manchester City this season. I think they've gone behind 4 times at the Etihad in the league so far in their games this season. They've come back and they've avoided defeat in all of them, winning 3 of them, I think, and then drawing the game with Arsenal. So, those sort of things, you just get stored away. It's almost a muscle memory type thing, and it can really help you in the long run. So I agree. I think it will help Arsenal. I think for our heart rate point of view, it'd be quite nice if we didn't have to endure them quite so often at the Emirates, I have to say. And finally, here's one from Mason. It says 2 questions. Do you think Ethan Nwaneri deserved the start more than Jesus and should have played instead of Jorginho or Jesus? I know he's a youth player, but his performances have warranted it, in my opinion. Yeah, over the 2 games, I felt he could have started one of those games, Southampton or Leicester, especially with Odegaard injured. These chances are going to be even more limited when Odegaard comes back. So I was a little bit disappointed that he didn't get a start in the game, but at least we did see him in the Leicester game and he made a big, big impact. But I thought certainly midfield, he could have played him. He could have had just sort of Rice as a 6. You could have played Wanyeri if you wanted, something like that. I think it would have worked fine. Secondly, do you think it's pure coincidence? It's always our fullbacks who get injured the most. Timber, White, Tomiyasu, Tierney, Zinchenko, all injured. Recently, Calafiori had a minor injury. We see half of these players as injury prone now, but is it a demand of being a modern day fullback? It's an interesting point. I don't look at some of the injuries that Arsenal have got, though. Certainly when you look at the one that Calafiori picked up, that wasn't anything to do with a fullback. That was just a really unlucky injury that he suffered in that game. Timber obviously was the ACL injury, and he's just coming back from that. Ben White, I don't look at as injury prone at all. I just think he's been so overplayed because Arsenal had no other options really at right back, because Tomiyasu was out for so long because of what happened with Timber last season. I think he just got overplayed last season, and he is now hopefully having a bit of a rest to sort that out. But I do think the demand of the modern day fullback is huge. You know, it's up and down the pitch. It's not just that, it's into the middle of the park. It's playing as a midfielder and it's getting back. I mean, so you look at the work rate of Calafiori and Timber in the last few games. Look at the touch map of someone like Calafiori. It's just not a fullback. It's just absolutely everywhere, all over the pitch. So yeah, I mean, the demand of playing fullback is huge now, 100%, and that might be a contributing factor to why some of these players are pulling up injured more often than not. So it's a good point to make, Mason. Thank you very much for that. And that's it from me today. Thank you very much for watching or listening. Appreciate your time as always. I'll be back tomorrow to do it all over again. I'm going to try and do at least a few, certainly at least a couple, but maybe a few live shows during the international break to keep things going as well. So keep your eyes peeled for that. It'll be over lunchtime if I do manage to do them. So until then, everyone have a very good day. Speak to you soon. Bye-bye.